Muchachos amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a podcast about music where friends gather together to share albums with each other. You're taking turns, it's like on this little quorum. It's like a little book club for music. We're here to just hang out and just talk about the things we like. I'm Petey Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me is my team, my crew, my squad, my consortium, my cohorts. We've got Brett.
When I go to White Castle, I'm a sack of tin cat.
Mm-hmm. We've got Drew.
Squad.
Yes. And we've got David.
Winners of the Record Breakers home game will get a glowing piece of our radical rock.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, who's that? Okay, cool.
Yes. Our radical
I don't got no rock.
Yes.
I have to go get the
better than powder.
I have to go down a couple blocks to go get the rock, but it'll be there.
I was going to say, you're in Miami. You shouldn't have to go too terribly far.
Just a couple.
Yeah, let's roll.
Go down to 67th Avenue. Just a certain bar. We're here to talk about music, not cocaine. We're talking about an album. I'm the provider of the album this time. We're going to be talking about the collaboration of one Bag of Tricks Cat and the one, the only, the cornerstone of the Nerdcore movement right now, Mega Ran. Their album, Emerald Knights 2. It's a really cool collaboration. Kind of actually made some headway. Got high on a few charts, and it's actually pretty successful for the guys. And it's a very cool album. Let's talk about expectations. I'll let you start, Brett. Kind of get you out of the way. What were your expectations coming into this album?
Well, I was familiar with Mega Ran before we did this podcast, but thanks to this podcast, I have listened to a bit more. I kind of understand what I'm getting into when it comes to him and his lyrical style, but I had no idea what I was getting into with this Bag of Tricks Cat.
Mm-hmm. David, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Well, I think we all know Mega Ran here on this podcast. He's someone that needs no introduction. And I was expecting, or I think it would be more accurate to say that I was hoping that with this collaboration with Bag of Tricks Cat, it would be something that would be a little bit different, maybe more of a departure from what you usually expect from Mega Ran, the Mega Ran brand, if you will.
Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I guess I will be the third one to say I'm pretty familiar with the Mega Ran, as it were. I very much enjoy what he does for the most part. I think he's pretty smart lyrically and pretty well done on everything I've heard him do. But I had no idea who this Bag of Tricks cat was. Not a clue.
Yeah.
Sorry, that made me chuckle, and now I'm stopping. Before I started listening and making up my notes, I didn't even look at what the pair looked like, which makes one of the things I drew kind of funny, at how they sounded. But I was excited to hear what this guy was and how his style would mesh with what you usually get from Mega Ran, and see how it played in.
Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of it is. I think it's a nice departure of what we expect from Mega Ran, but mainly from his most prominent work being his more nerdcore stuff. But it's a nice kind of progression of what he's been doing lately with more of his personal work, kind of bringing in what he's always done as an MC. In the past, I think it's a nice melding of the two styles. It brings a lot of really cool ideas. I think as an album, musically, it has some really cool beats. I think it's the first time I've sat down to an album I think it's the first time I sat down and listened to an album with the Mega Ran on it, or of Mega Ran's work. Where there's a song with a producer signature sound, which you hear a couple of times. To save the world. Courtesy of G1, the producer on quite a few of the tracks, and MC on one of them. It's a nice mix. It has some really nice call outs to people in the industry. It has like some nice challenges to the industry on a couple of tracks. It has some really nice just ballads, love ballads. Has some nice more emotional stuff about what it's like to be a musician and creative artist. I think it works well. It's a really nice collaboration, and a kind of a different from what the average person would expect from Mega Ran, but a nice continuation of what I know he's brought out more often, and it's a nice introduction to Bag of Tricks Cat, which is really cool. Brett, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, it's definitely a different production style than I was expecting. You still get, it's millennial rap lyrics, so you get things people write what they know. So there's a lot of that what I was expecting. Especially with Mega Ran being a fairly positive and sometimes uplifting character. There are some of the wisdom from the established artist tracks that go on in this album. There's always the expectation of an introspective song or two, and this album definitely delivers that. Things I wasn't expecting: there's a baby making song with a sexy saxophone solo, like straight up, like that saxophone player had no shirt on. In my head canon. There's some other stuff that goes on there. There's a pretty all right piano and bass track, also I was not expecting. There's some, there's a I Came From Nothing and Now Look at Me song that had a little more, was more braggadocious than I was expecting as well, which was kind of neat. But then there was also some things that made me giggle, and I'll make sure to get to those in our next segment.
Yes. David, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes elements that you would bring out?
Production-wise, it is very, very modern, with one exception, which I think is for ironic purposes, which we'll get into later. I also would say that Emerald Knights 2 is the kind of hip-hop album that I would introduce to people who say they don't like hip-hop, or the only rapper I like is Eminem crowd. You know who you are.
White people.
Yes. WYPIPO.
I would introduce this album to them, and I think they might enjoy it as a complete album. Mega Ran is a name for all intents and purposes. I think Bag of Tricks Cat and the production overall do really, really well. This is an album that I would introduce to people that think they don't like hip-hop and probably just don't hear enough.
Yeah. I definitely agree. Drew, how would you describe this album? What would be the themes elements for you?
The great thing I found about this album is one, the differentiation in tone of the two rappers we have here, Mega Ran and I'm not going to say Bag of Tricks Cat every time I mention this dude.
No, you have to,
because that's real long. Felix, as it were. Their tones are very different, like just from a sonic quality, right? So you have that stylistic change that they can sort of play in, but they also fit well together when needed. Some of it varies on, like you guys have said, a bit of a modern hip-hop beat. A lot of times there are some crazy out there styles in parts of this. Not as crazy out there as some of the hip-hop we've covered before, but still touches on a little weird things. And I think I know what you're talking about when you say something that maybe it did it for like, hey, let's do a little bit of the old stuff for like a niche factor thing and sort of to play into what the song is about sort of deal. Which I think works. When you think about the music with the lyrics, I think that's a really smart thing to do in rap and something that I don't think is done enough. The thing that I really like about Megaran that sort of shone through here was the intelligence. The great thing is, since we've heard so much of Megaran, all of us before, you sort of know where he's coming from, like just as a dude. So to hear him step a little bit outside of what I normally hear him do in like the nerd sense, but still speak that truth, that it still speak to his own self and his own heart and really tell that story of him, I think is really, really well done. Don't know enough about Felix to know how much of that was coming through, but it sounds and felt like it was. So that's a really good thing. The comparison I was drawing in my head before I even Google searched the pair of these guys, because all I saw was the album cover, which features a dude in a giant cat costume and Megaran.
That cat looks like it has been partaking in jazz cabbage, if you will.
I was going to say
the sticky icky,
the devil's cabbage, as it were.
Yes.
Oh hey, I died.
Yes.
But
it happens to the best of us.
But the thing that I pulled out of my head was, this really sounds like a nerdier version of like Run the Jewels, where you have like a faster, higher pitched rapper and a like lower, more powerful, maybe more learned MC behind the mic, and you have those moments. And then I looked up the guy, and he's also white, like LP, and I was like, oh great, this is just another Ebony and Ivory situation. I didn't even realize my head was doing it. Great. But I don't think I'm wrong there. Where they play in to each other really well, and I hope they keep doing more work like Run the Jewels did, because it works.
Yes, it definitely works. I think like musically it works really well. I think between the mix of their sounds and the mix of their styles. And yeah, it's like nerdy Run the Jewels, but it's a nice like comparison. I don't think they would hate it. As we talk about some of the tracks, let's talk about some key tracks. Let's go right to, I'm not gonna do the record breakers thing. I'm gonna go right to Rappers in Their Feelings. Rappers in Their Feelings, they don't make no sense is basically the ethos, the thesis of the song. It's a very cool song. Very much brings out a nice attitude from the guys. All three of the MCs that are on the track, with G1 kind of coming in on the mic on this one. It is a really cool track instrumentally wise. It has a nice hook, like a nice sung hook. That works for the track, and it is a cool song lyrically, kind of calling out a lot of people who are, talking mad noise when they ain't done nothing, and it works really well. Also, I feel like this song, you could take the lyrical content, and replace rappers with the name of almost any other profession. And I think it would work well thematically right now.
Postage carriers.
Particularly, I was thinking of wrestlers. I want a version of this called Wrestlers in Their Feelings, with Joey Ryan, Dan Barry, and Colt Cabana as the MCs. And I think it would work really well. You can almost not have to change much of the lyrics, and it would be thematically perfect.
Lock Jim Cornette.
Exactly. Already done. God, need to be put out to pasture.
Dave Meltzer.
Yes.
I said it.
The body. Just one look at him and his upper body, and you get what he is as a human being, and you realize you should just stay away. That being said, all right. So we're gonna go to the aforementioned track. Aforementioned.
Yes.
I don't
affirm the shit out some stuff.
I don't know how to words. Get out the 90s. I imagine it's the one you guys were alluding to. I thoroughly enjoy the song. First, as a beat, it's just a really cool beat, a really cool nostalgic beat in a song that is very much trying to get people out of the rut of nostalgia, especially kind of more pointedly at MCs that are stuck in a outdated style that want to hate on new or young rappers for the sake of their beloved, 90s hip hop. And it's just, I like I especially lately, and especially I know, Deej, you can agree, that I've been in this mindset for a while, and I think in a lot of ways that anti-nostalgia, like
nostalgia rots your brain.
Exactly.
Buddy.
And I think it works well, and it's clever, and and it's smart, and it's pointed, and it works well. And of course, I think if we would bring up another track, I would bring up the closer, "Love Is Here," which is just basically a love letter to their fans. This is the fandom song. This is just like a thank you to all the love that they've received over the years and all the things that had made this all worth it. It's a great way to close out this album as a way to say, at the end of it all, getting love from the fans, hanging out with people, hanging out with friends, feeling the love that your music can bring out there is kind of makes it all worth it, and is the pain is at least partially rewarding in and of itself, which is really cool. Brett, what will be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, so some of the tracks clicked with me, some of them didn't. And I'm probably just going to describe things that stood out to me. So I'll start with Rappers in Their Feelings. It's a song that is against trying the need to be the biggest dick in the room or fake it until you make yourself into a dirtbag. That song is noteworthy. Get Out the 90s is essentially a Punk is Dead track. It is that stop clinging to yes, the message comes out very clear. But the one thing that stuck with me more than anything in that song is the terrible scratching. Boy, is there some terrible scratching, like bad.
I'm pretty sure that was the joke. Which is even better.
Yeah,
makes it even better.
Although there are other things on this album that's also gave me head scratchers, like all of If I Could, with the strange reverb on everything and the chorus of children's vocals and this really kind of cheesy keyboard tone. But it did make me smile, just probably for the wrong reasons. But it definitely gave the whole DIY feel, which it still worked. It still hit. So,
David, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
I'm gonna start off with Worldwide, track number 8. It's funny that Drew brought up Run the Jewels, because I listened to this song and I thought this almost sounds like a beat that LP would have made. Worldwide. And it's the kind of production and sound that I love in 2018 as far as hip hop goes. Worldwide. Heatstroke was a little bit on the sappy side for me, but I loved that it was right there with Afraid to Love. That was a great kind of 1-2 combination as far as what you might call the baby making section of this album. And of course, Get Out the 90s. It's already been said. It was done on a 90s boom bap beat, telling everyone that you're never going to make Nas Illmatic. Just get over it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
For me, Emerald Nights a go. This record, okay. See how it's gonna work. there was a little old school feel, but the tight rhyme scheme, the smart sort of production to it was great, in my opinion. Afraid to Love. Afraid to Love, just for some reason it hooked me. There, that smooth groove to the chorus, the sort of old love song to it and everything just was great, and it had me feeling the 90s before the song I think we all wanted to mention as soon as we heard it, which was Get Out of the 90s. The entire thing, like has been said, it's sort of a, hey, yo, don't just live in the past, but also the other underlying message to it that I think is really cool, and I really, really dig and needs to be said more of, is like, yo, if you have complaints about the current state of a situation, go out and fix the situation. You don't like current rap? You're living in the 90s rap culture? All right, go out and do your own. Like, fix it. You've got the power to fix it. Create. Do something. Bring something into the world, because if you think you can do it better. People are buying what they're hearing because it's there. Just go and do it. Quit your bitching. Which I think is a very good mentality to have sometimes. And I really, really dig that, and can get behind that like 110%.
Yeah. Shout out to DJ DNS for that one on the production side. Yeah, there's some solid tracks on there. I think, yeah, Get Out the 90s. Seriously, great ethos. Get Out the 90s. Like great, like shout outs. Like, just because you see samples, don't make you Jay Dilla. Like, really cool stuff. All right, let's talk about some conclusive thoughts with you guys. Brett, how would you conclude on this album?
I mean, I enjoyed my time listening to this because it's something that I'd never heard anything quite like it before, and with the cast of characters that I'd never met before, except that, like, it was interesting. It's probably not something I'm going to dig deep into in the future, but a couple of songs might show up, and I would not be unhappy to hear them. But also, I like this album.
There you go. You like this album
as a time capsule.
Yes.
To look back at in like 10 years, to be like, what the hell is the modern of this time take on the old farts that are still making albums into their 50s.
Yeah. David, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
This is a really smart, well done, well crafted hip hop album that deserves to be heard by many, many people all over the place. I wish Mega Ran were bigger than he is, and I wish this would be something that would be heard by everyone. Is it my favorite hip-hop album that I've listened to recently? No, but it's pretty damn solid from start to finish. And you don't get that from really anything. It's a pretty solid album from start to finish with some real high points and no real low points. A few tracks here and there I thought weren't up to par with the complete package, but pretty solid from start to finish. This is a hip hop album I would offer up to anyone that even has a passing interest in the genre.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album?
It's just a great record. I don't think I've ever had anything bad to say about anything Mega Ran's done. This album makes me want to see more of this Felix dude and figure out more about him. I think it's a really smart record. I think it's a really good record as far as just the things that are said, I think, are important to hear. It's something that touches on a lot of subjects that, for all the talk of the culture and whatnot that sometimes comes up around hip hop, it's something that you sometimes have to take a little bit of a deeper look to find people who are improving it in leaps and bounds. I think that Mega Ran just happens to be one of those people. I know this sounds like I'm heaping praise on the dude, but I think the dude deserves praise heaped upon. I think it's something that, like Deej said, it's an album that everybody should hear. I feel like some people will, oh, I heard Mega Ran, he's that nerdcore guy. I'm not going to listen because that's not for me, quote unquote. But there's more to be said. There's things here that I think there's a lot of people out there that might hate rap because of, oh, well, I don't understand what the lyrics are about. They don't speak to me. I think this can speak to anybody, whether they're into hip hop a lot or they're just some kid looking for something to just speak to them on a deeper level. I think this is a really great record, top to bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it is an album. It works really well. I think at bridging the gap between what these two artists are, in a lot of ways. It's very much, I think, what like Deej said, an album that is great for introducing hip hop to people who maybe assume they don't like hip hop, or maybe don't normally give a lot of hip hop albums a shot. It works really well musically. It has really cool like production work, and it just is a clever, fun hip hop album to listen to. A lot of little cool moments, little cool turns of phrases. It's got bars aplenty. Bars. And it's fantastic. This slaps, as the kids would say. More big ups to the man Mega Ran, Mr. Jarbo, doing it big, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from Bag of Tricks Cat, as he's been doing for a decade. But I want to deep dive and check out more of his stuff, more of his catalog, see what it's all about, including probably at some point check out the first Emerald Knights album, which is, but yeah, go check it out. All right, let's get to our haiku reviews. Let's get to the main of the event of the evening, what we've been all waiting for, the true purpose of this podcast, our haiku reviews. Let's get down to it. Brett, what is your haiku?
Collaboration. These guys are grown-ups, you see. A mature art form.
Mm-hmm. David, what is your haiku?
Solid, not stellar. These guys are intelligent, above the mainstream.
Drew, what is your haiku?
Really smart MCs, an album to please many and make a few think.
Mm-hmm. My haiku: Cat and Ran collab. Both bring great things to table. Push hip hop forward. Really great album. Those are our thoughts on Emerald Knights 2. You can check it out on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Do your due diligence and your dude diligence. Check it out, listen along at home. On that Spotify playlist will be next week's record, and it's going to be brought to you by David Majors. Deej, what do you have for us next week?
Petey Rave, on the next exciting episode of the Record Breakers podcast, I will be bringing the brand new album, Taboo, of Florida-based rapper Denzel Curry.
Particular, South Florida. 305 represent.
Oh, is he one of your guys, Petey Rave?
Yes, from Carroll
Nice.
City, which is a town or city in northern Miami-Dade County. It's
There you go.
It's right across the street. Carroll City is right across the street from Joe Robbie Stadium.
Is he 305, Petey?
Yes, 305.
Well, there you go. 305. All right.
So shout out to Carroll City representing next week. But that is next week. And this is this week. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. David is at
Call me DJM.
For now. Brett is at HibbityBirbird, HIBBITYBIBBARD, just not on Twitter.
Mostly Instagram.
Yeah, mostly Instagram. Drew is at XJuicerForX. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers, only on Twitter.
That's the number 4 Record Breakers.
4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com if you want to email us. It's recordbreakerspodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for to listen to other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube, in other places, but for now just YouTube.
Listen, 5 stars on iTunes.
Yeah, 5-star. Yeah, review us on iTunes.
Hammer that bell.
Like, share, wherever where you find podcasts. Yes, wherever you find podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, all over the place. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Need boner pills?
Do you have it, guts?